Welcome back, viewers, to the EPG Pathshala for Architecture. We were discussing about cartography, general techniques, geodesy, and what is a topo sheet. Let us continue with the same aspect of the detail about topo sheets and map making procedures. Topo sheet. As I was telling you, topographic maps are topo sheets. This is in general how a topo sheet appears. When you just start enlarging or zooming that, you will get more details from that. On the left side, you will find some small village name Alangayam. On the right side, you find various contours which are representing different heights and elevation. What is important here is that contours are represented, as I told you earlier, contour lines are nothing but representing specific or one particular height. Here, these lines, especially lines which are thicker in nature, are representing or showing the hundreds, multiples of hundreds, whereas the peak point of that particular area, 822, 782 and 820, are indicating the spot height, the highest point in that terrain. The thicker lines indicating your, say, 100, values of 100. The thin lines, in between two thick lines, you will have 5 of them, each of your, say, 20 meter interval. Of course, there is no specific rule for here. Just to say that in a 1 on 50,000 scale, the contour interval will be 20 in nature. That is, this is, say, 600, 20, 640, 660, 680 and 700, 720, 740, 760, 780 and this is 782. I think this is how you read the topo sheet. Then you can see here indicative of your, say, drainage, the natural drainage, and very lot of details can be obtained from here. So this is your first order streams which are reaching this topo sheet, this particular drainage, and we have all of them represented here. Certain aspects of topo sheet you will also learn. For example, contour, pattern of the contour which will indicate or show the various details. I just told you in the previous slide, this is your peak point. So this is the peak point, and the river will be always occupying the lowest point of elevation at a given terrain, because we know that water will flow only at that particular level. So this is your natural drainage, or we call it as the river, or simple drainage also we can call it as, and this is what is the place water will be draining from the hills and reaching this particular point, and this we call it as the ridge, the highest point and the ridge, that is the point from which we find that it is from on either side it will be sloping, and this is the slope part of it. And obviously we have the valley part. I just told you that will be the point of lowest elevation, and that will be the area where river will be flowing. And you should remember that contours can never be straight in nature, and they can never intersect with each other, and invariably they cross the rivers, always cross the rivers. Because when I say something like a parallel line, contours can never touch each other, because we know that contours are nothing but lines joining points of equal elevation. So where is the question of contours intersecting with each other? So that you should bear in mind. What does the contour indicate? As I told you, points of height or elevation of the land above MSL or mean sea level. So that you have to bear in mind. You should be in a position to measure the vertical distance between the two, indicating what is the steepness of that. So that will be the same for all contour lines on the map, and of course it also depends on the scale of the map. Larger the scale, the distance will be more, but smaller the scale, the distance will be less. If you want to know the steepness of any given terrain, you should know that this distance is required. As you see here, this is the river which is flowing in that particular terrain. It is indicating dry in nature. We will see that a little later. So, dry rivers are rivers which are flowing here. Contours are these contours, and some of them indicating roads, and these are showing the tanks. Very important, isn't it? All these things can be obtained from a topo sheet. Every detail which is present there. So many details can be obtained within this. But at the same time, if a topo sheet shows a river in blue color, it is indicative that it is perennial in nature. This is dry, this is perennial in nature. Or a tank, you see here a tank which is shown in blue color, indicating it is perennial. But these tanks are dependent only on the rain part of it. As long as rains are there, till such time you will have these tanks filled with water. Once that rain stops, once you started using the water, water will completely get drained. In fact, you should remember that there will be also connectivity between one water body and another water body. You can see here. So the excess water will just move along and then reach the, say, other water body. Not only that, you get the details of water body, you will also get details about your reserve forest. All the green area is indicative of your forest area, which is green in nature, indicating they are all invariably reserved forest in nature, and also there are very thickly vegetated areas. And also names, of course, names is obvious thing in a map. So this is the legend part of your topo sheet. Various details are given. We will see one after the in detail. So we have the legend, which is absolutely necessary for one to understand what is present on a topo sheet. Let us see this aspect. You can see here how the roads are represented on a topo sheet. Depending upon the importance, we also show them like this: roads which are metalled in nature, roads which are unmetalled in nature, and roads which are containing bridges. You can see here roads which are containing bridges. You can also show the distance stone, okay, indicating up to here it is 20 kilometers, then another 10, 15, invariably it will be kilometers in nature. Similarly, some of the roads are not literally roads, track, like a cart track or a pack track or a footpath with bridge, without bridge, all these things are shown in this manner. See how important these are present. Then we talk about various things like your streams which are present in that region. That could be streams which are rivers or anything like that. So see how variety of symbols are shown. I am not going to go into the details of this. Just indicate. I was just telling you, blue color indicative that they are perennial in nature. This is dry, with water, without water. So the important thing is, because it's not going to, a topo sheet is not going to show the aspects at that particular time. So whereas satellite data will be giving you details about that particular area at that given time. So at any given time, if I take a satellite data, I will know whether the water bodies are perennial in nature or dry in nature. But a topo sheet is generally indicative in nature. Of course, many times topo sheets are prepared long ago, say to my knowledge 1979, 1980. Not much of development has taken place. Though they are updating, topo sheets are not prepared rather. So lastly, 1980, 1979 is the period what they have done. It's almost 30 years. Then imagine the changes which have taken place over a period of time. So hence, though they are Bible in nature, developments or changes which are taking place in the rural and urban scenario are not truly represented on a topo sheet. Well, but still they are very important for any kind of study. So we are coming back to the various aspects I was telling you. We can also show the wells which are present, and you can see that lined wells, unlined wells, tube wells, springs, and so on and so forth. I was telling you tanks which are perennial, blue in color, dry in nature will be shown as plain one. Similarly, railways, railroad. So you can see, of course, improvements are taking place over a period of time. People are trying to show the various aspects in a different method. And of course, contours are there which are present here. When you are talking about other aspects, apart from the natural features, we also have artificial, that is man-made features. Towns and villages, they are purely representative in nature. Please don't get carried away when you are looking at a topo sheet indicating the town, a small town which is drawn there. It is simply cartographic representation. It does not reflect the actual extent of the town. So that you have to bear in mind. Many people will have a general tendency, what is the total area of a town? Okay, let me take from the topo sheet. It will not be a true representation. Because at that time of preparing the topo sheet, whatever would have been the area of occupation by the general public, only that is represented. Even that not truly representing any individual houses or things like that. Just to show a small area in the map, indicating it is town or a small village or a small hutment. Of course, when you are just looking at that, so you can just look at the slide, you will get a better idea. So this is the way I was telling you here. You see here. So this particular place, let us not go over the name, just to get an idea. Vadakku Veeranallur. This area is representing one small village, and definitely this is not the actual size. You can see here another small habitation here and there. So they are not representing any kind of exact location, I mean exact size, just a representation. Everything like huts can be represented in this manner. Temples, churches, lighthouse, all these things are there. Of course, when you just start looking into that, you will get a better idea. So spot heights are also shown, as I told you here, as 682, 600, 700, indicating 702, 703, indicating that they are all specific values at that given point. And very importantly, one should not get carried away with the contours present, because it's a 20-meter interval contour in a 50,000 scale. Sometimes in the case of 25,000 scale, you may even have say 5 meters or 10-meter contour interval. But a 20-meter contour interval, when two lines are shown as contours, does not implicate that the area between these two contours are between that values. It's not true. Because if I have a 720 contour and a 740 contour, does not mean the area between these two contours are between 720 and so on. It need not necessarily be true. I think you understand that. Because a 720 contour is a true representation of 720 height. A 740 contour is a true representation of 740 height. But between these two, it's not exactly the same. It could be, there could be some ups and downs. So there are local variations. So the better the contour interval, the better will be the accuracy. But still, for making a three-dimensional analysis, three-dimensional study, because for larger areas, it's not possible for one to use say a 1 meter or 2 meter contour interval. So depending upon the study, we use that. So contours are all shown as lines here, and the benchmarks are also shown here, very important input. Other aspects like post offices, everything are also shown here. Yes, index to sheets. How do you understand or how do you identify a topo sheet? Looking at the index sheet. So you have to see here, 57 is the number, and then C1 is indicative, one part of it. In C, as you have seen that your 1 degree sheet is divided into 16 parts, A, B, C, D and so on and so forth. You have 57 C1, C2 and so, and this is what is indication of your that particular topo sheet what you are looking at. Some of the details you can see here, the year of publication of this particular topo sheet, 1975, as I was telling you, not beyond 1979, not much of variation, the new publication is not there. Because now they started working on that. It is under Government of India, Surveyor General of India, a very, very important one. Sometimes they also indicate the restriction of that particular topo sheet here. If it is not indicated here, then it is not a restricted show. And you find the very important scale factors. Of course, we will see the scale details later. And everything is indicated in say meters, the heights, the contours. And the interval is also given as 20 meters. Of course, water bodies, blue colors, and all these details you can get here. So all these things are representing a part of your legend here. Of course, administrative index, indicating to which district, to which taluk it is belonging. So Chitradurga, Tumkur, of course, when you are not able to show here the entire Chikmagalur, you show it as one and show it as Chikmagalur. So Tumkur, Chitradurga, Chikmagalur and Hassan, the various districts in a given terrain in Karnataka, and that particular topo sheet is representing that area. A planimetric map. As I was just telling you, when you are working with a say topographic map, various details are suppressed. Mostly you will find a lot of details pertaining to your say contours, and general representation of the area. But a planimetric map is not so. A planimetric map will indicate details in as it is in the condition. True to scale, the actual width of the road, width, shape of the building, water body width, because as I told you right from the beginning, everything is referred to a specific coordinate system. It could be latitude, longitude, or it could be UTM. Irrespective of the coordinate system which is normally used in a map, these planimetric maps are, as I told you long back, a drawing and a map. Once the drawing is referred to any coordinate system, it becomes a map. So planimetric details are all shown on a planimetric map. You can see here, all the roads may not be or need not necessarily be mentioned, road names rather. It will be difficult to show in this particular scale. Probably on a larger scale we will be able to show that. This particular planimetric map, this is the indication, the width of that particular water body, and you can also see some greenery there, a park indicated, and you can see the road here. You can see the wider roads are shown thicker and the interior roads are shown thinner. So, and some of the roads are shown much wider, indicating that they are all true to scale. And very importantly, we normally prepare a map. Of course, of late we are using satellite data as an input into your, say, aerial photographs or satellite data as an input for preparing a base map and preparing thematic maps from the base map. So we try to superimpose these thematic maps on the base map and finally come out with a planimetric map. Yes. Now coming to the next part of it. So we have just seen a hypsometric map, especially I told you about your topographic map, and we saw the planimetric map in general, because there are all other details will be following later. Then we talk about maps which are generated based on the scale part of it. Of course, it may not be directly relevant for general study, but still one should know what is the scale, how scales are important in preparing a map. So we say that maps could be either small in scale nature, large scale in nature. Of course, medium scale is nothing but moderate between the two types. So keeping the scale as a criteria, we try to prepare a map. So you should know what is a scale. Of course, I need not tell you, but still, just to complete the talk, I want to tell you about the scale part of it. What is a scale? Is nothing but the ratio of the distance on the map to the corresponding distance on the ground. So any kind of study, any kind of map making, one should know or decide what could be the possible scale. So if I know the scale, I know what should be the width of the particular object I am going to refer. So scale plays an important role. In the beginning itself, I told you how important a scale is that, and what kind of types or methods of scales are there. How do you generate? How do you represent a scale in map? So cartographically, how do you represent it? So representation of a scale, it could be referred or represented in three different methods. Say for example, 1 centimeter to 100 meters. This is the way you represent 1 on 10,000. That means 1 centimeter on the map is 100 centimeters, or 1 on 10,000 centimeters on the ground, or 1 inch to 1 mile. In fact, this was the scale which was there prevalent for a long time, 63,360. For a very long time they were using it. Either it could be like this, or it would be fraction 1 by 63,360, or it would also be 1 centimeter to 1000 kilometers, or this is 100 million. So scale can be represented in various ways. Now coming back to the types of maps which are based on, say, scale, large scale map and small scale map. Please bear in mind that maps which are having scales does not mean it is always large in scale. It is only a kind of comparative scale we call it as. Normally, any scale which is normally having a scale of, say, 1 on 25,000, 1 on 5,000, 1 on 20,000, 1 on 50,000, whatever is the scale, those maps which cover small area naturally depriving details. So the smaller the area, the lesser the detail. That scale is called a small scale. Large scale maps are larger the area, lesser the area, more the detail. So once I start using something like, say, 1 on 25,000 scale, and when I compare it to 50,000 scale, obviously I'll be having more details in your large scale, that is 25,000 scale. So don't calculate based on the value 25,000, 50,000. 50,000 is a small scale, 25,000 is a large scale. Now, when I say 5,000 scale, then 25,000 scale will become small scale, 5,000 will become large scale. So, the larger the scale, the lesser the value shown 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 like that. When the smaller the scale, see the values will be more 25,000, 50,000 and so on and so forth. So, one should understand that large scale and small scale are relative values, they are not absolutely in nature, but still how do you represent is that small scale maps will contain lesser detail, larger area, large scale maps will contain more detail, smaller area. So, that is the main difference. Now, you can see how the entire say your Atlanta city is shown in one slide, indicating namely your small scale to large scale. Of course, this itself is your 94 million, 37 million, 16 million and 1.3 million. So, this is how it just varies. You can see here. So, once I start, I want to show the entire Atlanta. This is the scale. I cannot show it in a larger scale. A part of Atlanta, I zoom in and finally end up here, where in which I have a 1 centimeter is equal to your 13 kilometers is the scale. Whereas in the other cases, you find it is slightly different. So, as the area increases, the scale also will decrease, and in the sense it will become smaller in nature. So, small scale to large scale in nature. Methods of representing scales. How do you represent scales? There are three methods. One is your graphical method of representation. Graphical method of representation is, it is one of the most common method of representing scale. Of course, the present day almost all maps, they show only graphical representation. In the sense, when I want to show or when I want to reduce or increase the scale of the map, previously it was difficult in the sense they were all printed maps. Printed maps, it's not possible for you to show as reduced or decreased, increased rather. Whereas a map which is shown in GIS or in the digital format, it becomes much easier for one to show as a larger scale map or a small scale map. In the sense, when I want to show 1 on 50,000 scale map of a given terrain, as we just seen Atlanta, for the same area, I can show a large scale map in the same environment. So, this is the advantage of your GIS. So, when I am talking about graphical representation, not only the objects get shrunk or enlarged, the scale also gets enlarged or shrunk. So, that is the beauty of that. So, just look at the slide, you will understand. You can see here. So, this is the way in which your scale is shown. So, this is statute miles or this should be kilometers. So, normally we have the intersecting lines shown as a ruler, just like a ruler. What does it do? Represent the objects in true values with respect to the objects in real life. So, very important is that I was telling you, if this is going to be 1:1 mile, or then the scale, if it is going to be 1:1 mile or 1:1 kilometer, obviously this will become a larger scale when compared to the, say, your mile. You can see here, once I just, this is the scale of 1, indicating 1:10 miles, 1:10 kilometers. So, obviously this will contain largest your width, because this is covering large area, whereas this is covering less area. Similarly, I want to show this 1:10 kilometers and make it as 1:5 kilometers. Naturally, this indication also gets shrunk. You can see here, from here to here, it is getting shrunk. So, the importance of scale and graphical representation is that normally, that's the reason I am just taking little pain to explain you what is representation, graphical method. So, graphical method is the most common method of representing the scale. So, it is not again difficult for you to make measurements. It is convenient and easy. You can make measurements on the map based on the map, map what you look at it. So, we will have rulers if it is digital in nature. Otherwise, you can use a scale, which again a ruler, nothing but. So, you can measure on the scale, that is your graphical represented scale, know the distance and go to the map, find out the distance between objects, or measure on the map and then try to compare what could be. So, it will be little difficult in terms of converting. Otherwise, measurement is not difficult. So when you talk about next method, the verbal method, wherein which we simply say what is the value. Say 3 inches is equal to 10 miles, or 1 mile is equal to 3 miles, 1 inch is equal to 3 miles. So it becomes easy. So it's very simple and easy for you to make measurements. You can also say 1 inch is equal to 150 miles and so on, because it all depends on what kind of a scale you are going to use. So advantage in this case is that making measurements becomes much easier, in the sense you can simply make a measurement on the map and directly say what is the scale or what is the distance, because you know that 1 inch on the map is equal to what is the distance on the ground. So that's the advantage you have in this scale. You also have ratios, the fractional method of indicating. So this is what is another method of indicating your scale. 1 on, that's what we say, 1 is to nothing but 1 on 211, 200. That is 2,11,200 in Indian way of telling. Or another method is the fraction, 1 is to 50,000 or 1 by 50,000. So obviously anything and everything here, 1 unit on the map is equal to 50,000 units, irrespective of the unit. It could be centimeters, it could be millimeters, it could be inches, it could be foot, or it could be meters, it could be kilometers. So 1 on 50,000 indicates invariably 1 centimeter on the map is equal to 50,000 units on the ground. Then coming back to the next type of maps, maps which are used for general purpose based on information. General purpose maps, or your thematic maps, or special purpose maps. So these three maps are very important in terms of how you use, because I already told you the importance of thematic maps. You can see them. As I was telling you, the general purpose maps, all the maps what you would have seen most of your lifetime, wall maps, atlases, or your topo sheets. Over a period of even your school days, you must have started looking at maps. You must have studied or you must have worked on maps. Most of the time, during your practical in your geography in your school days, they must have given an outline map of India or Tamil Nadu or whichever state you belong to. And that map, they would have asked you to demarcate the production of that particular importance of that particular district, namely wheat or rice or something like that, or any kind of industry. And they may ask you to show the capitals of various districts. And they may ask you to show the capitals of the entire, all states in a map of India. So just for you to understand spatially where it is located. So the importance here is that all general purpose maps where we don't make really any kind of measurements, of course they may be true to scale, but still it will be difficult for you to make any measurement because it's going to be used only for general purpose. All the atlases, topographic, of course topographic map is a Bible, they are all called as general purposes map. So this is what is the advantage here. When you talk about thematic map, very important is that anything and everything, when you talk about a specific factor or a single factor or a theme, such maps are called as thematic maps. It could be a geological map, it could be a land use map, it could be a soil map or a slope map, whatever it is that. All these maps are otherwise called as thematic maps. Okay, that's what is the purpose of that. When you talk about special purpose maps, maps which are prepared for specifically for a special purpose, say especially, of course this will be a little hurting for you to tell that, maps which are prepared for say the blind, which will fall in your this particular category, special group of people. Some examples of your thematic maps, you should know that, just the listing of that. Something like say customary boundaries, local resources, land use or local land use like farming, plant knowledge, historical events, sacred areas and sites, and you can also talk about the areas of disturbance. Maps which are indicative of your natural resources, namely geological map, mineral exploration, and timber inventory map, soil map, or the license areas which is in that particular, that is with respect to your say mines. So that's industry based. Government maps which are very apt for our kind of understanding, regional planning, resource development plans, could be a vegetation map, soil map, slope map, climate map, and so on and so forth. And finally coming to your types of maps which are meant for say military purposes. General purpose, strategic, tactical, and photo maps. Of course this has become very much in vogue now. Previously it was not so. General purpose maps. Any kind of map which is 1 on 1 million scale, indicating the entire country to be used by higher authorities, namely the commanders, but which they will be just getting an idea about that. It will also contain the topographic detail. That's an important aspect of a general purpose map. And these general purpose maps are used by higher authorities on a very small scale. That's the purpose of your general purpose map. So when you're talking about strategic maps, maps which are scale of say 1:1,000,000 to 500,000, they're all classified as strategic maps. These are used for general planning of more concentrated military effort, especially in military purposes. Not that always the commanders will be at the site of battle, all of us know that. The next level of people who intend to know or who intend to use or understand the surroundings or how to approach the point of your say enemy area, then we try to use this sort of a map. But in which general, again it will contain some details but not in very much in detail, 1/500,000, because to reach a particular point I should know around surrounding area. If it is going to be large scale, I will not know much. Something like zooming in Google. You start zooming it out, naturally what will happen, you will not see many details surrounding, but you will be in a position to specific. When you just zoom in, you will get more and more details. So then maps are which are otherwise called as tactical maps. So this are very relatively larger, 1/500,000, lesser, say 1/250,000 scale, like that, which are meant for say small units like battalions and patrol units, which will be used prior to the movement of anywhere near the front line. Before reaching the final frontier, they try to use these maps and then reach them. So they are called as tactical maps. Of course, finally we also have maps which are otherwise called as strategic as well as tactical in nature, which are much larger in nature. That is, it not only shows you the general aspects, it also gives you the other details like your cultural features, some of the important say points of interest we call it as. So it's a use of your strategical as well as your tactical maps. The present day, most of the times people tend to use a photo map, because importantly a photo map or aerial photograph we call it as, all these things are using photographs which are absolutely true representation of what is present. If I take a photograph or if I use your satellite imagery in the field, I will be literally looking at what I am looking at in front of my eyes. But a map, I told you, will not be in a position to tell you that, because it is more of a representation. It just says some buildings are here. It cannot tell which exactly building is there unless this is a large scale map. When you are talking about your aerial photograph or a satellite image for that matter, you have the advantage of looking at what exactly is being looked by you in the field. For example, you would like to have in a battlefield, you would like to have an open space meant for the military personnel to stay. In such a case, you need a relatively small scale, say 1/250,000 or 1 lakh. If you want to know how to cross a river, you cannot use 1/25,000 scale. But if a topo sheet is there, along with the topo sheet and a photo map, especially in a larger scale, say 1/5,000, 1/3,000 of the same terrain, then you will be in a position to understand what exactly is present. Do you have any features at all? If I were to cross the river, how do I cross the river? How long I should go to reach that particular point to cross the river? So photo map is a very apt one, and majority of the people are now using photo maps to their use. So that's about your photo maps. This must have given you what are the various aspects, what are the types of maps. So the next session we will be looking at understanding the components of a map. So what are the details which are present on a map? Thank you.